Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And I want to tell you about some breaking news. This has actually caused me to delay the news video to tomorrow. So typically Monday mornings I have a recap of the past week's news, but that's been pushed to tomorrow because we've got some news that literally broke just after the podcast. So someone on the My GNR forums discovered a new Guns N' Roses website that appears to have been set up by Universal Music, which is Guns N' Roses record label. So it's GNR.fm. So when you go to GNR.fm, it's a pretty simple website. There's some social media icons that link to all of Guns N' Roses' official social media pages, and then you'll see some text scroll across the screen that says "Destruction is coming." Now, that's not the only thing that's breaking news. Now, the other part of the puzzle, or the other piece of the puzzle, is that a fan in the UK posted this billboard they took a photo of in Camden that links or shows the link to the exact same website, GNR.fm, and it shows all of the 5 Appetite members, what they look like on the front cover of Appetite. And a quick search shows that Universal Music set this up. Now, I have some other information too. I've heard through inside sources that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but the record label is looking to release something in the future. I don't know whether that's a reissue of Appetite for Destruction. I kind of wonder why they wouldn't do it on the 30th anniversary instead of doing the 31st anniversary. There may be something that's released from the Appetite era that has to do with photos. That's what I've heard, but nothing is official. And as we get in more information on this, I will let you guys know. Now, as Guns N' Roses fans, we're used to disappointment. I wouldn't be surprised if it really amounts to nothing. I mean, it's pretty typical that something is hyped, never comes to fruition, or at least what we think will never comes to fruition, and then people get disappointed. There's like a backlash against the GNR management. But the fact that the record label is involved really has me scratching my head, and I'd love to know from you guys, what do you think it potentially could be? If any of you see the similar billboards, could you please let us know? So this billboard was posted on one of the Guns N' Roses fan forums or the fan pages on Facebook. So we're still having people dissect it and what it exactly means, but I thought it was definitely breaking news, and it could amount to something major being announced this year. We do have Fernando on social media who said that 2018 would be a pretty big year, but he was kind of vague in terms of whether he meant his personal life, which he just recently got married, or he meant Guns N' Roses, so we'll have to wait and see. I do find it strange that the URL is .fm. Typically, .fms are set up by radio stations, so I don't know why, if it's set up by Universal, why it's not .com or some other kind of ending part of their website. Now, there's also some news that I forgot to cover in tomorrow's video, so I'm just going to do it here. So this is pretty recent news. So Susan McKagan, Duff's wife, posted this on social media. So apparently Duff and Axel were hanging out together and having dinner. She thanked Fernando and Betta, as well as Axel, for having them over, and I guess they had a meal together. I kind of wonder if they were talking about, or at least if in their discussions, whether this possible announcement came up. So when you look at the My GNR forums, there's a lot of speculation. A lot of people seem to think it's a reissue of Appetite, which I think it is. And then there's some people who think it could be a concert with the original 5. There is 0% chance, I think, of that happening. I'm not speaking from my own inside knowledge, but I just do not think we're going to see any concert, at least in the next year or so, featuring the original 5 for a full show. Now, some people thought that there could be another Guns N' Roses scented candle coming out. If you guys don't remember, there was a scented candle that was released within the last year or so, I believe. So in other news, it looks like Slash is going to be auctioning off his top hat for charity, or one of his top hats. And this is a photo that appeared on social media. So he's going to be auctioning it off for charity that I believe deals with diabetes research. Then we've got some Bumblefoot news. So it looks like Bumblefoot's going to be playing on an upcoming Disney tribute album. So Bumblefoot's one of many different guitar players who's going to be playing on the record. So even Zac Wylde, who was jamming with Guns N' Roses for a bit in the 90s, is going to be on the record. So there's going to be a total of 10 tracks. They're spanning all of the different Disney movies. So Zac Wylde's going to be playing Beauty and the Beast. Ron Bumblefoot Tall is going to be playing Reflection from Mulan. So if you guys want to see the full track listing, I've linked to the article below. So Aerosmith's guitarist Joe Perry was joined on stage this past week by Dizzy Reed. He played keyboards with him in Atlantic City. We also had a member from the band Extreme. So if you guys want to see their cover of Walk This Way, I've linked to the article down below. So if you guys haven't been paying attention to Joe Perry, he's actually got a new album called Switzerland Manifesto. So it's via his Roman Records imprint, and it's along with material from his previous solo works and some Aerosmith hits as well. So the album is Joe's 6th album. It comprises of 10 new tracks, all written or co-written by Joe, except for a cover of Eve of Destruction with Joe on lead vocals and Johnny Depp on drums. And the album also features guest appearances from a long list of Joe's friends, colleagues, and rock and roll icons. We've got another interview with comedian Andrew Dice Clay where he talked about reuniting Guns N' Roses members Axl and Slash. So he was being interviewed in Las Vegas magazine, and the comedian mentioned GNR and how he helped reunite the band. He said, "I had everything to do with putting Guns N' Roses back together, so I went to their first show. My boys have a band called Still Rebel, which is a real rock and roll band." He went on to talk about his sons, and then he later brought up Guns N' Roses once again. Talked about how his 15-year-old son basically told him that he's the only guy who could put Guns N' Roses back together. So he said, when I saw my boys were doing it, in my mind I was like, all right, we got to bring back rock and roll back together in a bigger than life way. He said, and I was always close with Guns N' Roses, so I physically went to work on them, piecing them back together. I was glad they got together, just putting rock and roll out there, and now LA Guns is doing it, which I love. They've got a new album, it's great to see, which helps my son's band, which is reminiscent of 70s, 80s rock, melodic rock and roll. He went on to say, so anyways, I went to the first Guns N' Roses show at the Troubadour in Hollywood, and I took my boys. It's the only show I've gone to. It's the only show I need to see because I went to see the first Guns N' Roses show together. And they were phenomenal. The whole club probably holds 400 people, so I was in the VIP section. In other news, we have a recent interview with Tommy Stinson. And as somebody who can tell you from first-hand experience, Tommy doesn't like to talk a whole lot about Guns N' Roses. He more wants to focus on his current projects, which is understandable. So he did an interview with Appetite for Distortion. He talked a bit about Guns N' Roses, although there was one part where I think Buckethead's name got brought up, and you could tell there was some sort of awkwardness, and they must have had a pretty bad falling out. He did talk about what the band was doing between 2003 and 2005. He had trouble remembering exactly what was going on, but he said there was always, side stuff that they were doing. So that was the nice thing about being in Guns N' Roses, because you could go work on your side projects when there wasn't a lot going on in GNR. He talked about how he met Axl because Duff had quit the band and his buddy Josh Freese was already playing with Guns N' Roses. Josh Freese joked to Tommy that the band needed a bass player, and Tommy said he'd learn a few songs and then send it to Axl. So they sent it to Axl, and they met a few days later. Tommy thought the idea of continuing with the Guns N' Roses name with everybody who was originally in the band leaving was pretty punk rock thing to do, and trying to maintain the whole band without the original guys. He said he never saw any of the old Guns N' Roses shows before joining the band. He said he almost saw them when they opened for Aerosmith in 1988, but he got to the show too late. He also said that he doesn't know what's happening with the song called Going Down that he sings on that was leaked. It was supposed to be on Chinese Democracy, but it never ended up making the final album. He said he's still in touch with the guys from the band, and he said he doesn't have an answer for that song. He said he doesn't know if they would put it out, given that Tommy's the one who sang on it. We also got a recent interview with Zac Wylde. So he, as you guys know, jammed with Guns N' Roses in January of '95 when they were on the lookout for a new rhythm guitar player. So he did an interview with Eon Music, who's going to be distributing, or he's distributed his new record that's out. And they brought up the 1995 sessions with Guns N' Roses and how it came about. So Zac said, Axl was telling me that him and the other guys were talking about getting another guitar player. He said they were just talking about guys and this and that. And Axl said, well, how about Zac? I know all the guys, but I'd never met Axl before. But I knew Duff and I knew Slash. So I was kind of just throwing it around as a joke. And then it was, why don't we just ask Zac what he's doing and have him come down? So I just went down to jam with the guys. It's not even an audition at that point. Jimmy Page is not going to audition for the Rolling Stones. It's just like, Jimmy, do you want to come down and jam with us? It's just like, yeah, okay, no problem. So it was more like that, just a bunch of clowns getting together and jamming. He also revealed that they didn't really do much with Guns N' Roses. He said that it was Slash, Axl, Duff, Matt, and Dizzy was down there. So all the guys, and then I just came in, and it was jamming. We did demos and stuff over at Duff's house at the studio. We just had a bunch of riffs and stuff like that, but nothing was going on. It was in limbo, and it was just laying there. And I was like, I've got such an outstanding booze bill, but I got to pay debt off. So I said, fellas, I got to get back to work and just let me know what's going on. So if you guys didn't know, Doug Goldstein was also managing Zac at the time. So that does it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Also want to give you guys a heads up that we interviewed Angry Anderson last week from Rose Tattoo. So if you guys haven't checked it out, go check it out. We talked to him for, I think it was like 2 hours, and we could have talked to him for even longer. But we'll have him on again. And I want to let you also know we got another big name musician we're going to be interviewing in the near future. So I hope that hopefully comes to fruition, and we'll let you guys know who it is once the interview is actually done. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and go follow us and support us on Patreon as well. Take care.